let's go to Jessica in Washington, D.C. Hey, Jessica, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, what's going on?
I just had a quick question about some Parent Plus loans we're paying for my husband's education, and they in his mom's name, and it's about $56,000. It's in his parents' name, and a really high interest rate, like 7.9%. We just don't know if we should make this as part of our baby step 2. We've paid off our own personal debt and just bought a house and a 15-year mortgage. Like, we're really cruising through the baby steps. But we just don't know if we should put this in our name and consider it our own if we're going to be paying it.
Jessica, how old are you guys?
I'm 29 and he's 30.
Okay, so is this loan recent? Did he go back to school, or was this from when he was in college? 15 years ago.
When he was in college. Yeah.
Okay. And
13, he graduated.
And what is his parents' financial situation? You don't think they're going to be able to pay this loan off, or is it more of a financial obligation that you feel, or like an emotional, hey, this is basically his loan and we feel the need to do this emotionally, or is it more financial?
I would say both. We are in a much better predicament to pay it, and emotionally. I mean, he feels like he owes his mom everything. She's an amazing mom. So we just want to do this for them.
Yeah. Well, from a legal standpoint, right, it is their loan that they signed to pay, right? That's the Parent Plus loan formula. But for you guys, I mean, I think that there's a level of dignity you're giving yourselves of saying, hey, you know what, we're adults, and this loan was for him, for his education. And yeah, legally, she's the one that can take it and all of that, right? That's what the deal is. But you guys taking it on, in a way, is very noble. It's a way of taking care of his mom. And like you said, she probably won't be able to pay it off. It's putting her in a situation. And if you guys are able to take it on, I think that's kind of a beautiful thing. I think that's a gift to give her. And I don't think your spirit doesn't sound like you're doing it out of obligation. I think you feel like you're doing it because this is the right thing to do. Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. So we just don't know if we should put it in our name or continue making payments through her account. And if we should add this to our baby step to kind of revert back, because we feel like we're ready to move on to baby step 4 if we just kind of make monthly payments on this and not make it part of our debt. But it is our debt, essentially.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's just semantics. It's just how you're talking about it. Because if you're taking emotional ownership and you're taking actual financial payment of it, then yes, it is. Whether or not you want to pretend it's in your debt snowball or not, for the step backwards that it feels like. Did you already say this, Jessica, and maybe I missed it, but what are the expectations? Have you all communicated with the parents about who is paying it, who's responsible for it?
Yeah, I mean, it was not, we just kind of decided to take it on about 2 years ago. I mean, we've been paying on it for a while, so I think it's pretty expected that we'll be paying for it. It was just never,
but have y'all
officially.
Totally, but have y'all said that? Have you all had a conversation we're going to take this on and we're going to pay it off?
Yes.
Okay, great. Awesome. I just think that's key because sometimes we can have different expectations. Like you guys expected them to take it back or you expected it to be split or something like that. So just if y'all are all on the same page from an expectation standpoint, then yeah, I love that. And if you can, then do it. It sounds to me, and Rachel, you chime in here, it sounds to me that what feels right in your spirit, Jessica, is to pay it. So even if we told you not to pay it for some reason, which we wouldn't, your spirit is what's telling you what you need to do. It's that's what you feel convicted to do, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. So you need to do what you feel called to do.
And I'll be honest, Jessica, I don't know the process of putting the loan in your name. I know you asked that versus keeping it in hers. I would say if you guys were able to pay this off quickly, a part of me would say not to mess with it.
It doesn't matter.
Keep it in her name. Well, it adds to the liability, of her. If they don't pay it, it is still in her. There's just.
I mean, if you pay it off quickly, yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. If you pay it off quickly, that's what I'm saying. I don't think it really matters that much in that way. So, but I don't know the process even to direct you in that. So I would say continue to pay it off, but I would be gazelle intense. I would pause everything. I know you guys haven't moved quite on to baby step 4. I don't think you said. So, I would continue to pay off this 56 and you can keep it where it is. Rachel,
I'm curious because I know you have talked about this a lot. Dave has talked about this a lot, but this is a great question, a great example from Jessica, and it sounds like everyone's in a really healthy place. Sometimes we get calls and it's not that. And it's, well, I paid for my mom, or, I paid for my sister XYZ and she didn't pay me back. And, I thought she was going to, and we never, and there's just these weird family dynamics when someone pays for someone else's something. And I love Jessica's heart because it's very much like we want to. We don't have to, but we want to. And it's coming out of this like joyful heart, and it's a gift, or it's a, something that everybody's on the same page. How do you advise people when they're like, should I pay for this thing for a family member? Like, what's the kind of like framework you walk them through to ask if that's right for you?
Well, I would say the first step is to think, I'm not getting this money back. This is a gift. Right. We're not going to loan it out. It's not a debt. We're going to loan it out. I would say if there's a level of enabling, I would push into it. Okay. Because what ends up happening is you could end up harming them more than helping them.
Or it's a pattern.
That's right. Yeah. Exactly. But that's the beautiful thing when we talk about living like no one else. So later you can live and give like no one else. And, we get calls that people have paid off their parents' mortgages, right? Like, these insane gifts that you're able to do for people when you handle your own money, right? And Jessica's that, right? Like they're on baby step 4 now. And she's like, you know what? We're going to take on this debt that technically his mom's paid for, right? Yeah. Took out, but we're going to do that because it was, my husband's education. I'm like, that's a gift. Like that is. So I would just make sure that the enabling part is not in there. But also I would say from a spiritual aspect, if you feel the Holy Spirit, you feel like God's telling you to do something. Yeah. That's a great checklist as well to say, all right, we're going to engage this opportunity to do it. But I think understanding and the expectation, because like you said, we get so many calls. I've even had friends, 2 different friends that their parents took out a loan for college. They didn't realize it, but it was under their name. Right. And then they're going to go buy a house and they pull and they're like, well, you have and they go and they're like, Mom, Dad, they're like, yeah, well, you're supposed to pay on this. Like, I haven't been paying on it because I didn't know it was there.
You didn't tell me.
There's just so much miscommunication that can happen in families because of just assuming.
Yeah.
Oh, I just assumed you knew. Right. Well, how would you assume? We never talked about it. So the over communication part, which is why I liked you pressed Jessica on that. Like, that's a key part. Whenever you're dealing with money and family, keeping it clean helps with that communication. Clear communication. To be unclear is to be unkind. Yeah. You're not being kind by just dancing around the edges and making everything sweet. Go in there and lay down exactly what's going on. Yeah. Because that truth is going to help kind of slice through a lot of the hardship that can be caused by money and family.
Yeah. And I love how we quote this all the time, but George Bernard Shaw said, the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it's occurred. I thought you knew, you thought I knew, but I said, but you meant, and I thought, and that's where so much resentment builds. That's where conflict occurs. That's where you miss each other. You had an expectation. They had an expectation. They were different expectations and you never talked about them. And so much can be resolved. So much conflict, so many, resentment that's building up could be resolved if you would just communicate. If you would just say, what are your expectations here? Here are my expectations here. Let's get on the same page before we move forward in anything. By the way, that's not just a money principle. That's a life principle.